Hello viewer, the Nameless Scholar here, and welcome back to more Age of Sigmar lore. In this video, I will be talking about the Ogre Mawtribes. Before I begin, if you want more Age of Sigmar lore videos, check out my channel and other videos. I would be grateful if you liked, commented, and subscribed, as well as shared this video. My mission is to show people that Age of Sigmar is more than just the game that killed Warhammer Fantasy. Ogres are giant humanoids around 10 feet tall and can reach half that in girth due to how gluttonous they are. Ogres are gluttonous by nature, so much so when they wear armor that protects their stomach, because for an ogre, to eat is to live. And ogres are known to strip an area of food in like a week. And when that happens, they take on a circular exodus known as a maw path, where they pillage and eat and eventually end up back at their camp. This results in them making eclectic circles which resemble bites, as if their gulping god took a bite out of the land when the ogres ate. Who is the gulping god? It's Gorkamorka.
Of course!
However, ogres are rather dim-witted. But even then, they are smart enough to use a giant piece of wood to turn their enemies into minced meat. On top of that, the ogres have a basic nomadic culture of gluttony and self-indulgence. The ogre tribes also pick up bits and pieces from the cultures of others they ate, as well as the realm they are from, and these tribes come in two ways. The first one, where they have a camp, a might makes right hierarchy, where the leaders sometimes eat their own children to make an example, and the second one being a constantly moving tribe that is running from a supposed Everwinter riding on Arctic beasts. For the ogres, eating is not a solution. It is a question, and the answer is always yes. If they have a problem, they will try to eat it or at least use their clubs to get it to shut up. The first type of ogre subculture is called Gutbuster Warglutts. These found what are referred to as glut holes on the ruins of castles or in giant cave systems. They opt more for the latter, as there might be a giant bear or lion dwelling inside of it for the lads to feast on, and caves take no time making. Then, they will predate on the surrounding lands after a glut hold is established. If their prey tries to run, they must catch up to them or find new hunting grounds. When they need to, they go on a part religious pilgrimage, part exodus, and part hunting party known as a maw path. When they are on a maw path, they will go on a circular journey where trees fall to the side, the ground quakes with their marching. They will hunt any animal or sapient being on their path, and sometimes eat them then and there as a light snack. When the maw path is done, they will find themselves back in their glut hold with loads of raw meat and spoils of war. Then they will put the meat in giant cauldrons, put seasoning, and host a feast. They will eat, they will fight, they will get intimate, shall we say. Should a human eat of this broth, they would vomit out violently at best, or die of it at worst. Then, the butchers will offer some to Gorkamorka, if it is deemed sufficient. The pile of bodies turns into a portal that leads to new feeding grounds. No one really knows how this exactly works, neither do the ogres. The other dominant ogre culture is the Beastclaw Raiders, that are constantly on the move against a phenomenon called the Everwinter. The Everwinter varies depending on the tribe. For the Boulderhead tribe, it is a barrage of fist-sized hailstorm. For the Winterbite, it is a white fog of death. To the Thunderbellies, it is a booming gale that drives them ever onwards. There are many interpretations of the Everwinter's origins. Two universal ones, being Gorka Morka being displeased with an infamous Frost King rebel by the name of Bergot Vossiarl. The other being Gorka Morka coldly sighing at the ogres because they thought that the Gulping God was different than him. Then there are the realm-specific accounts, which I plan to cover in a separate video. But what is certain is that the Everwinter gives the ogres a bond with the creatures of the Arctic, and what they have in common is due to body fat and size, they have high body temperatures. So if an ogre and its ride gets caught in the Everwinter and doesn't die, they will be frozen solid. Depending on how it manifests and when they thaw, and anyone happens to be near them, the ogre will attack in an instant, overtaken by a ravenous hunger.
Do you know who else drove the ogres into a ravenous hunger?
The era of the beast. When Kragnos woke up, there have been more chasms, fissures, and ravines opening in Gur. The ogres understood that Gur was hungry and that to feed it they had to eat as well as send stuff down there. Mainly other ogres, either as punishment or for laughs. Afterwards, the chasms have been observed to close. Quite a painful fate considering that the ravines have jagged teeth like rock. Although some ogres became as civilized as possible and have assimilated into the free cities, either as mercenaries that work for food or as full-on citizens, not only that, the Dawmbringers have been using their dim-witted nature against them to outsmart them, which is not a high bar, by either having a third party fight them or having man-eater mercenaries and noblar intermediaries. The Dawmbringers like to get the ogres go on a maw path and have them leave a skeleton crew behind. The Dawmbringers kill the skeleton crew and start settling on the Gluthold, but more often than not, this backfires immensely, as the ogres realize that their thinning allies betrayed them and have stolen their homes while they were hunting all day. The combination of brute force and anger oftentimes leads to Dawnbringer walls and defenses being torn down with ease, the troops being overwhelmed, and the ogres having more food to eat. The ogres can be located across all of the mortal realms, but Gur is the best place for an ogre to live for the abundance of food located on it for them to take. Although they are creatures of caves and hillsides, they love fire. Some even believe it to be a gift from Gorka Morka, because it allows them to cook meat in a way that is all crispy on the outside but raw and bloody on the inside that they can use for a broth. They prefer their food as rare as possible, which is why they prefer things like clubs and maces over swords and axes. When they use such weapons, they make sure to dull the edge so not much blood will be lost. The ogres are also by nature wanderers, depending on the realm. They will find ways to traverse nature to get their food. In Gyren, they might use cleavers and cover themselves in mud to keep the itchies away. In Chamon, they might wear scraps of metal. In Ulgu, the ogres have pitch black eyes and have paler skin, never seeing sunlight, as Ulgu skies are either very gloomy or pitch black. The ogres of Hyash, on the other hand, are known to have long bouts of thinking about what they will eat next, which is why there are rumors about them that the best ogre chefs come from the 10 Paradises. Speaking of, the ogres use giant cauldrons known as maw pots to cook their food, where they will mix and match different types of meat, ranging from mammals to lizardmen to trolls, which is the main reason why a human eating ogre food is not a good idea. If cooked incorrectly, troll stew and or troll meat will at best give you very violent stomach aches, make you vomit violently, or straight up kill you. But for the ogres, it is an acquired taste. The ogres see cooking as their main form of art, and their butchers will cook this broth and have noblars carry it out to nearby ogres. If at a glut hold, the maw pot will be at the center of it. If on the battlefield, the maw pot's location will be fixed somewhere and have the noblars carry the food to nearby ogre forces. Upon gorging on it, it has supreme healing abilities for the ogres. Flesh knits, bones repair themselves rapidly, etc. The ogres have a mercenary attitude by nature. They have the secret where the thought process is this: thinning pays us meat or currency, or sends us away to another target, then we come back later to eat them. The ogres know how to use currency, however, they are not good at counting money. Because of that, they are rather easy to cheat. If you want to cheat an ogre, you have to take two things into consideration. The first one being their intimidating posture. The second one being, are they as dumb as you think they are? If you think you can take the risk, go for it. But don't abuse their dim-wittedness. If they realize you swindled them, well, they will actively go out of their way to kill you and everyone within your vicinity until they take back what they think is theirs. Ogres lean more on the tyrannical side of things. The position of leadership is not hereditary. Might makes right. In the case of the Gutbuster Warglutts, the over-tyrant's word being law, with everyone else being underneath, he negotiates with prey should they make a trade offer, and the over-tyrant's champions bully the others into submission. Those who comply, however, aren't just rewarded with keeping their lives, but also tasty meat that they can munch on as a snack. Underneath the over-tyrant is the Slaughtermaster, which is part butcher, part head priest. Then there are the butchers underneath, and then there are the soldiers, and underneath them are gluttons, whom by the others are seen as unworthy beasts that have yet to prove themselves, and underneath them are noblars, which are essentially the house slaves of the ogres. Meanwhile, the Beastclaw equivalent is a Ulfrostan. They are led by Frost Kings in a similar vein to the Gluthold Over-Tyrants. The Frostlords are his subordinates whom lead one of the three arms of their armies, the first being Yorlbud, or Fighting Hand. The champion of the Yorlbud is called a Huskard. Them aside, the Yorlbud is the elite of the Raiders, and they get the biggest share of meat. Then there is the Earlbod, or the Eating Hand. Although their duty is no less important than that of the Yorlbod, they are seen as less prestigious. Their purpose is to snuff out any last pockets of resistance and gather the remaining meat. Which Frostlord leads the Earlbod depends on which one was more successful on the last raid. Finally, there is the Torbod. Unlike the others, the Frostlord of the Torbod is permanent, because the Frostlord of the Torbod can channel the freezing winds of the Everwinter against their foes and for their benefits, so they are seen as the wise men of the Raiders. Then there is a fourth unofficial arm called the Skal. They are scouts that answer only to the Frost King, and due to their sharp instincts, they are given free rein to explore for new hunting grounds as they see fit. Now, onto the tribes. Starting with the Warglutts. The biggest Warglutt Mawtribe is the Meatfist tribe, located at Gur. They have stripped more regions of land of its meat than any other, because they absorb some of the nearby tribes themselves. They are great in numbers and at the top of the competition. This means that they have a higher chance of having a feast mid-battle. Their symbol, the bloodied fist, is achieved by plunging their fist deep into the vat of gore or the chest of their enemy. This is an homage to the very first Ogre tyrant, Grawl Meatfist, which managed to rip the heart out of a Goorish Titanox with his bare hands. Due to their successes and lack of competition, they are getting more and more gluttonous. Then there is the Blood Gullet Mawtribe, whom believe that cooking meat is blasphemous, and flesh is best eating raw and bloody. That blood dripping down their chin is communion with the gulping god. They use sharp weapons more than the others to drink the blood of their enemies. In fact, they like to drink blood more than to eat meat. This somehow makes them more potent magicians. Then there is the Underguts Wartribe, which live deep in the cave systems of Ulgu, and they have acquired a taste for venomous animals. They have a lot of black powder in their possession, which they also use to expand the caves they call home, which also allows them to host a lot more lead belchers and iron blaster cannons within their ranks. This also allows them to essentially be allies to nearby Gloomspite clans. Now, on to the Ulfrastan tribes. The Boulderhead tribe is considered to be a tribe of pariahs even amongst the ogres, because they are highly competitive against their kin as much as they are towards the thinlings. They use shock and awe tactics with their arctic beasts and are completely merciless, grounding anyone that happens to be on their way into fleshy pink pulp that will soon be frozen. Located at Chamon is the Thunderbelly's Mawtribe. They do lightning raids against their enemies, and they seek to channel the power of the heavens. So, they search the peaks of mountains and prefer to fight the Stormcast Eternals. Finally, there is the Winterbite Mawtribe. They live at the precipice of the Everwinter, always skulking in the mists. They wear furs of ivory white. Their skin is so often pallid and encrusted with ice. They attack from this mist and drag their victims to a frozen hell. The mist is so thick that all but giant beasts like Stormhorns and Thundertusks cannot hide within it, but by the time the heavy cavalry arrive, the enemy is usually doomed. Now, of course, we come to the part where I talk about the units. Starting off with the Warglutt leaders, they are called tyrants. They use violence and intimidation as a cudgel, and embody might makes right. They try to stay at the top and are taken down either by their offspring or their Iron Guts guard. In battle, they wield either warhammers that are essentially two-handed tenderizers, or giant warglaives that they use to spill the guts of titanic beasts. Then there are the butchers, whom are the priests of the ogres. They are also part chefs. They cast spells by eating things, ranging from intestines to bile and actual iron, oftentimes injuring themselves, but the amber magic allows them to heal more often than not. Or they explode like they are Boomer from Left 4 Dead. Then there are the Slaughter Masters, which are the pontiffs and head chefs of a Mawtribe. Some are even tyrants. They are the one who cooks the broth for the feast, and carry the mawpots on their back via iron chains. They cook in the mawpot to cast spells, adding water, spices, meat, as their nobler slaves stir it. Sometimes they even offer their own limbs to the mawpot, and by extension, to the gulping god whom rewards them for it. The foot soldiers of the Mawtribes are called Gluttonous. They are ogres with no rank or prestige. They are led by Crushers, the most formidable of a glutton group. They charge at the enemy and smack them to death with their clubs and bite off the heads of any remaining survivors, assuming they weren't crushed under the ogre's weight or pulled away by their charge. They can be mindless with this because melee weapons often bounce off them. Arrows and bolts break, and bullets fail to wound anything vital due to the amount of body fat. They are essentially... Then there are the Iron Guts, whom are the shock troops of the ogres, and the bodyguards of the tyrants. They use giant clubs of stone or iron as weapons. Sometimes they use dull scimitars or warglaives. They wear the signature gut plates and sometimes take shields of their enemies as trophies to hang around their chests. To become an Iron Guts, you essentially have to eat the most repulsive or dangerous stuff you can find and live, such as pulling off a
The loathsome dung eater.
entire horses, swords, and live. Hence the name Iron Guts. Then there are the Lead Belchers, which are ogres who carry cannons like they are rifles. If they have them, they use cannonballs. If they don't have them, they use the discarded weapons of their enemies as ammunition. But it isn't well understood how they know how to operate a cannon. Some say that the Gulping God granted them the intellect to do so. Others say that the Noblars taught them. Then there are Iron Blasters, which are giant cannons with a murky history. It is said that the ogres salvaged them from a Gyronite empire they stripped clean of. This empire belonged to giant creatures which were quiet and forward-thinking. Ogre legend says that an ancient Mawtribe climbed up to the floating island the giants were living on. The Skaven, however, tell that their cannons roared against the ogres, but the ogres won tooth and nail. Ever since, there have been many replicas of the original Gargant cannons produced by Chaos Dwarves, or even the odd group of Noblars. Speaking of, the Noblars. They are a type of goblin with very large noses, which, during the Age of Myth, and some state, during the time of the world that was, the orcs had bullied them so much that they had left behind their supposed home, the Scrapaspill in Chamon, and entered a symbiotic agreement with the ogres for protection. In exchange of being their slaves, they are the artificers for the ogres so that the ogres can focus on eating and entertaining themselves. The Noblars are by nature kleptomaniacs. Despite all of this, the Noblars are nothing but house slaves that keep ogre society running while getting pushed around or eaten by them anyways. Then there are the Noblar scrap cannons, which is a haphazardly built weapon of destruction made out of wood, horn, and metal with sinew or animal gut as a firing mechanism. They, like lead belchers, put discarded weaponry in them and then launch at their enemies in high velocity. So here's the thing with Noblars. They have good aim and good depth perception. Make of that what you will. Then there are ogres that work as mercenaries, such as blood pelt hunters. They care about scoring the flashiest of kills with their ballista-sized crossbows. They use a lot of restraint not to eat the whole carcass, as they want to keep trophies from the beast they killed. Then there are the Firebellies, which are a group of unorthodox ogres that don't worship the Gulping God in the shape of a great maw. They worship it in the form of what they call the Sun Eater. According to them, Gorka Morka ate the Haitian sun that loomed over Akshi, then spat it out in a belch, which was what gave birth to the rivers of lava on Akshi, and according to some, the realm of fire itself. The Firebellies prefer their foods very spicy and spiky so that they will have a volatile gut, which allows them to spew fire from their mouths among other orifices. Then there are the Man-Eaters, which have a higher wanderlust than other ogres. They leave the maw path for their own adventure, tasting new things, seeing new places, and offering their services to thinlings that they encounter, fighting alongside armies and taking barrels of meat to gorge themselves in. Eventually, they will come back home and tell all about the things they saw to their mates. It is said that the oldest man-eaters are all boast and talk, as well as that more than half the tales they tell are complete nonsense, but telling this to their faces is a one-way ticket of getting your head blown off by a pistol with the size of a chair. Then there are the Gorgers, which answer the question, what happens to an ogre when they stop eating? These troglodytic creatures are the epitome of starvation for the ogres, as they claim that even the finest slabs of meat taste to them like ash, and they can never be sated. The ogres sometimes tell in campfire stories going like,
I fear no man, but that thing, it scares me.
when regarding the Gorgers and how it is the result of the empty belly curse, a curse inflicted upon an ogre that displeased Gorkamorka. Some even believe by them touching you, you can turn into a Gorger yourself. In battle, Gorgers follow the butchers like starving dogs follow a meat wagon to sate their hunger that cannot be sated. Now, onto the Beastclaw Raider units. Starting with the Frostlords, which ride onto battle Arctic beasts that makes the ground quake wherever they go. These tyrants ruthlessly lead their tribe towards new hunting grounds, for they are all ravenous, and even more ravenous is the blizzard after them. When a Frostlord dies, the others under them go out into the wilds and bring back the corpse of a mighty beast to prove themselves. Those who support the higher number of ogres becomes the new Frost King. Now, the ogres are not good at counting and considered advanced science, but sheer size and mass of ogres can discern who has the higher support, especially when another Frostlord supports one Frostlord over the other. Then there are the Thunder Tusks, which are creatures of thick hair and ice that have an innate connection to ice magic, and the ogres use its sides to hang raw meat. Their horns are reinforced with metal, so in battle they can break down any doors, while they stomp any thinling underneath gets crashed to death, and its signature move is to belch a white ball of ice from its gullet that upon impact turns their foes into statues of ice. Stone horns are creatures that eat metals and gems to grow stronger rather than things like meat, milk, etc. Gems especially are a delicacy. Oftentimes, they are chosen mounts of Frostlords or Huskers if they aren't riding a Thunder Tusk. Huskers are shamans with an innate connection to the Everwinter. They can channel his freezing energies and pray to Gorkamorka to drive the creatures of the sentient blizzard into a frenzy. Freeze wounds shut and send hails the size of large rocks towards their enemies. Then there are the Mournfangs that are saber-tooths and great white tigers with poor eyesight. They are myopic because the ogres raise them in such a way that their tusks will be so long that it will constrict their vision, making them charge first and ask questions later. A Mournfang will only take upon a rider should its would-be master be able to pummel it into the head enough times to assert his dominance. These creatures can survive without food for weeks, and only the most fatal wounds can stop their rampage. Then there are the Icebrow Hunters, which are the scouts that I mentioned previously in the video. They traverse the most dangerous of places, ranging from literally anywhere in Gore to the more dangerous places in the mortal realms, indulging in their wanderlust and killing formidable foes by hurling spears and with giant crossbows in their search for new hunting grounds. Then there are the Frost Sabers, which are giant felines that don't emanate body heat, are fast, silent, and make for excellent hunting cats for the ogres. Finally, there are the Icefall Yetis. The ogres claim that the Yetis are a different species entirely, but they derived from ogres. If this is the case, the Yetis refuse to answer. Yetis are usually quiet creatures, and when they do talk, their language is primitive even by ogre standards. Only Huskers can understand them. Well, anyways, guys, this is going to be it for this video. I am sorry it took too long. I finally finished that exam and passed. I'm the Nameless Scholar, and I'm kind of surprised I didn't make any Shrek jokes in this video.